Time for convening having arrived. The Senate will come to order. Would ask unauthorized visitors to exit chamber at this time. And the Senate will come to order. Chair recognizes the distinguished senator from the 53rd.
Good morning, Mr. President. Here on the 19th legislative day, the journal's been read and found to be correct.
Thank you, Senator, for your good works on the journal. Is there objection dispensing with the reading of the journal? Reading the journal is dispensed with. Is there objection to the confirmation of the journal? Chair hears none, and the journal is confirmed. All senators having bills and resolutions to introduce, please bring them to the Secretary's desk at this time. First reading in reference of Senate bills and resolutions.
Senate Bill 167 by Senators Ligon of the 3rd and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 2 of Article 6 of Chapter 2.
Education.
Senate Bill 168 by Senators Tippins of the 37th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 1 of Article 1 of Chapter 10 of Title 13 of the OCGA relating to bonds.
Slogo General.
Senate Bill 169 by Senators Staton of the 18th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 3 of the OCGA relating to alcoholic
Regulated
beverages.
Industries.
Senate Bill 170 by Senator Hill of the 32nd. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 9 of Title 16 of the OCGA relating to forgery and
Judiciary
fraudulent practices.
Non-Civil.
Senate Bill 171 by Senators Balfour of the 9th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 31-6-47.
Health and Human Services.
Senate Bill 172 by Senators Jones of the 10th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 1 of Article 2 of Chapter 3 of the Title 20 of the
Higher
OCGA.
Education.
Senate Bill 173 by Senator McCoon of the 29th. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 33
Insurance
of
and Labor.
Senate Bill 174 by Senator McCoon of the 29th. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 3 of the OCGA relating to alcoholic
Regulated
beverages.
Industries.
Senate Bill 175 by Senator McCoon of the 29th. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 1 of Title 28 of the OCGA relating to general.
Ethics.
Senate Resolution 245 by Senators Hill of the 32nd and others. A resolution.
Rules Committee.
Senate Resolution 247 by Senator McCoon of the 29th. A resolution creating the Senate Expungement Reform
Rules
Study.
Committee.
Through with the order, Mr. President.
First reading in reference of House bills and resolutions.
House Bill 87 by Representatives Hightower of the 68th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 7 of Chapter 2 of Title 21 of the OCGA relating to precincts and polling places so as to authorize.
Ethics Committee.
House Bill 194 by Representatives Powell of the 171st and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 1 of Title 46 of the OCGA.
Judiciary.
House Bill 202 by Representative Epps of the 144th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 32 of the OCGA relating to highways.
Transportation.
House Bill 294 by Representatives Caldwell of the 131st and others. A bill to be entitled an act to provide a
State
homestead.
and local governmental operations.
Through with the order, Mr. President.
Clerk will read reports of standing committees.
Mr. President, the Senate Appropriations Committee has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation, that House Bill 105 do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Hill of the 4th. Mr. President, the Senate Retirement Committee has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation, that Senate Resolution 143 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Miller of the 40th. Through with the order, Mr. President.
Clerk will read bills and resolutions for the second time. No second readers. It's now time for a morning roll call. Are there any motions to excuse? Motions to excuse on the morning roll call. We do have second readers. Read the second readers.
Senate Bill 11 by Senator Carter of the 1st. Georgia Geospatial Advisory Council, reestablish membership duties. Senate Bill 12 by Senator McCoon of the 29th. Torts, recreational joint use agreement, specifications, definitions. Senate Bill 69 by Senator Murphy of the 27th and others. Juvenile Justice Department, confidentiality of information supplied, penalties for breach of confidentiality. Senate Bill 86 by Senator Stone of the 23rd. Family violence order, provide greater protection of victims of family violence. Senate Bill 93 by Senator Heath of the 31st and others. Wildlife, authorize the use of suppressors on hunting firearms under certain circumstances. Senate Bill 96 by Senator Mullis of the 53rd and others. State courts, solicitors general of part-time solicitor general engage in private practice of law, not represent defendants in criminal matters in such solicitor general's state court. Senate Resolution 201 by Senator Harbison of the 15th and others. Army Department of request to carefully consider the socioeconomic impact, programmatic environmental assessment. Through with the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes Senator on the 35th.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 39th and the senator from the 26th.
39th and 26th, 39th and 26th, without objection, the two senators will be excused. Are there any other motions? Chair recognizes Senator on the 40th.
President, I ask the unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 29th who's away from the Capitol on business.
29th, without objection, Senator from 29th will be excused. Are there any other motions to excuse? Any other motions to excuse? Like to welcome to the floor of the Senate former Senator Connie Stokes, who's present with us today. Glad to have you with us visiting. Secretary will call the roll. Senators, please signify your presence by voting the yea switch. Secretary will unlock the machine. It's now time for our morning devotion. Would ask that senators please take your seats, cease conversation, and doorkeepers please secure the chamber at this time. It is now my distinct honor to recognize the senator from the 53rd for the purpose of leading us in our pledge and introducing our chaplain of the day. Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would you join me in honoring our nation? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now honoring our state. I pledge allegiance to the Georgia flag and to the principles for which it stands, wisdom, justice, and moderation. It is truly an honor for me to introduce this next individual. He is a good friend of mine, Pastor Darrell O'Neill from Rossville, Georgia, the gateway to North Georgia. He is a football coach also from Gordon Lee High School, where I went to school. And he's a fifth grade teacher for Chickamauga Elementary, and he's my son's teacher. So I'm trying to make brownie points today. He's also the co-pastor of the Shiloh Baptist Church in Rossville, where they lead people to Christ. He's a father of Jordan, Jensen, and Landon, and his wife, Anita. And Anita and Landon are here. Please give them a hand. Please. He was educated at Covington Theological Seminary. He got his degree at Dalton State College and Western Governors University, and he attended Mars Hills College, where he played football there. He's an outstanding individual. He does a great job mentoring our young people at our schools and at Shiloh Baptist Church. Please give your attention to Darrell O'Neill.
Thank you, Senator Mullis. Thank you, Mr. President. It is truly my honor to be here. I'm from Chickamauga, I fought this traffic all the way down. I told Senator Mullis, I said, man, the last time we had a traffic jam in Chickamauga was when you resodded your yard. And so I'm not accustomed to this. You'll have to forgive me. Man, you guys turned a cur dog. You invited a cur dog to Westminster here. I'm way out of my element, but I am certainly most honored to be here, and I am so appreciative of what you all do. It's hard for a football coach to say this, but it's very hard for me to hold back emotions when I walk into this room and know and understand what it stands for and the responsibility that you all bear. But before I begin, I thank you for that tremendously. I got up early this morning, so I didn't get to do my morning devotion, so I'm going to just do my morning devotion with you all, if that's okay. He said we could do what we wanted to, and you don't need to turn a Baptist preacher loose with no restrictions, especially when he coaches football and is a teacher as well. That's just very dangerous, but thank you, Senator Mullis. Student walked into my room one day, and she said, Mr. O'Neill, is that your favorite tie? And I said, in my mind, I'm thinking, you are really looking fine today. She said, is it your favorite tie? I said, well, I guess it is, actually. It is one of my favorites. She said, well, I thought it must be because you must wear it a lot. It has stains all over it. As the air hissed out of my egotistical balloon, she daintily bounced back to her seat, and I stood there in my double Windsor stained glory. And I laughed, but then I thought, you know what? She noticed. Isn't it amazing that no matter what we do, when we think we're just wearing a stained tie, someone notices? And I thought to myself, if she noticed stains on my tie, my goodness, what else is she recognizing? What else is she noticing in my life that I'm doing? My devotion this morning comes from Joshua in the Bible, chapter 24, verse 15. It is my life verse. And it says something like this: if it seem evil this day for you to serve the Lord, then I want you to do this. You make your choice. You can serve the gods on the other side of the floods that your fathers or ancestors served, the gods of the Amorites, the people whose land that you now dwell. If that seem evil to you, then listen to me, because as for me and my house, we'll serve the Lord. Now, here's what's amazing to me about that. That is a very familiar verse of Scripture, but here is what really gets me and really got my attention when I began to put all this together, when I talked about that child noticing just a simple tie. And that is this: Joshua, in chapter 23, took these folks back and said, remember what happened to you when we came out of Egypt? You had no hope. God brought you through it. You remember when we looked very bleak when we got to the Red Sea? God brought you through it. You remember when we got to the desert? It looked like it was just, there's no way to get through it. God helped you through it. He said, I just wanted to remind you of those things because I followed a good leader, and his name was Moses, and he taught me a lot. And he could have at this time, he has brought them across the Jordan River now, defeated the enemy, and is looking for what they called looking over the land of milk and honey. Now, you can say what you want to, but folks, to me, from where I was raised, America is the land of milk and honey. Specifically, Georgia. I like it. And they were looking over what God had promised them. And he could have said, because he had them, he could have said, this is what you're going to do as a nation. This is what I command you to do. You're going to get in or you're going to get out. But here was a man that had so much confidence in what Moses and the people that have gone before him had taught him. And he had so much confidence in his leadership that he was willing to say, you do anything you want to. You choose your way. It's your choice. But let me just tell you, as for me and my house, we'll serve the Lord. Here's what's cool about this. They all followed him. All but one little sector, and they were cattle people that decided they liked the grazing land on the other side of the river. Everyone else, with their own choice, followed his great leadership. And I thought to myself, do I have leadership like that? What influences am I making? I know my time's short. May I read to you a letter written by a high school student? The Daughters of the American Revolution ask high school seniors mainly to write an essay about their American heritage, and it's a contest, and this is the winner of the 3 counties in our area. May I read it to you? Our American heritage and our responsibility for preserving it. As Americans, we have many responsibilities in our country. The United States has a very long and rich history, dating back to the Declaration of Independence in 1776. And by the way, this young man, they're put in a room with no help whatsoever. They're allowed no outside help, no literature. This an open essay. They just have to sit and write it. And the writing of the Constitution, the current Constitution, in 1787. With the establishment of the nation, the new citizens were given responsibilities to uphold the freedoms of the new nation and to protect the values that made the nation as special then as it is today. Now, as good citizens in our current world, our duties have changed from over 200 years ago. With the changing culture, government, and education, there are certain necessities that develop as citizens. If someone were to go back and look at the United States from 5 years ago, they would see a completely different nation from 2012. The ideas of citizens change from year to year as well as across the generations. In the 1950s, spanking children was very acceptable. But now, some people consider it to be child abuse. Due to this, our responsibilities change in order to help the citizens who have changing opinions on certain issues. We might not need to make a push for women's voting today, but we might need to battle for the economy. Some of these principles are also present in politics. The government and politics is where I see some of our biggest responsibilities as Americans. There are often huge changes in government, whether it be deregulation of business, legalizing gay marriage, or preventing immigration. All of these choices affect us as citizens. The decisions that those in power make are the decisions that impact the freedoms that we enjoy. It is not uncommon for a law to be passed that removes something that I enjoy. For this reason, I, as well as every other American, have the responsibility to both choose the government leaders that we believe will justify our nation and to educate ourselves about the foundation that this great country was built on. It is absolutely vital to learn about our history to ensure that we do not repeat past mistakes or stay away from the principles that began the United States. The Declaration of Independence states, "We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." I firmly believe this statement, and I believe that it is my duty to do everything I can to preserve these values. Yes, the freedoms change, and when they change, we should evaluate them to make sure they hold true to the above-mentioned truths in the Declaration. I try to complete my job as a citizen by doing simple things like learning about wars and voting. My responsibility might one day shift to educating others about our history and freedoms. But without a doubt, I will be prepared to do what is necessary to be a good citizen. Now, I asked for permission to read this by this young man. And it was easy to get that permission because it was my son sitting over here who wrote that. Now, thank you. Am I proud of him? Yes, but I wanted to know as I put this together. I said, Landon, tell me this. What made you write that? Well, it was a contest, Dad. I know. How did you get to those values? I really was waiting for him to say, Dad, you did it. He didn't say that. Not at first. I said, I've never sat down and talked to you about politics. I've never sat down. Now, you know my religious beliefs, but I've never sat down. And he said, well, my coaches, my teachers, and yeah, Dad, I've watched you even though you haven't told me. And I said, where did you get the main standard? He said, the morals I got from the Bible. I said, wow. And I was overwhelmed because I saw, as I said, Joshua with that kind of confidence. Some teacher, some coach, some representative, some senator has made laws, and our fathers made a constitution that even an 18-year-old boy was willing to memorize and place within his heart alongside the Bible that we believe. How important is it to us as Americans, what you do? We hold it as dear as our religion itself. And I want to tell you, I am challenged, not just as a coach, not as a pastor, not just as a teacher. I'm realizing that it must begin within me personally. And I must do what I need to do first within myself and within my family and instill some confidence there before I can be an effective leader elsewhere. May I ask you to do this? Pray with me that I would be that as I teach your children, as I teach his son, as I coach these athletes that will stand possibly one day in front of millions, and that I would be that. And I will pray for you that you do the same thing as you lead our nation. Would you stand with me as I pray? Father God, I pray right now that you would bless all in attendance in this room, that you would encourage them, Lord, and lift them up and let them know that there are folks on the outside of these walls who are praying for them every day. I pray that you would grant us all the courage to look back and see from whence we have come. May we learn from our mistakes and may we build on our successes. More than anything, please, Father, help us to do what we do from divine guidance, having knowledge that our actions always influence others. Thank you for the most influential person that's ever been on this earth, your Son, Jesus Christ, and what he did for us to pave the way to freedom. And it is in his name we pray these things. Amen.
Amen. Well done. Well done. Pastor, coach, and teacher. I mean, that sums it all up. Let's get the family in. Yeah. All right. You didn't know your dad was going to embarrass you like that, did you? Thank you so much. Good to have you.
country. And we're very fortunate to have a significant chapter in Bartow County, the Etowah Valley Young Marines, and they are here with us this morning, and we wanted to have them stand up and be recognized and welcome them to the Capitol this morning. Thank you very much.
Chair recognizes Representative Kendrick for a morning order. Representative Kendrick.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If any members of the Gwinnett and DeKalb County delegations would like to join me in the well, please do so. Today I have the pleasure of celebrating one of our very own for Black History Month. He was a constituent of mine and served DeKalb and Gwinnett counties faithfully until his recent death. We have his family in the galleries, but before we recognize them, I'd like to tell you a little bit about Mr. Willie Mitchell Anderson. He began his life journey in Gwinnett County, Lithonia, Georgia, which I understand used to be Snellville, Georgia, the Promised Land community. He was born to the late Thomas Mitchell Anderson and Ida Bell Albert Anderson. The greatest portion of Willie's life was spent in the community where he was born. He attended Bethel Elementary School in Gwinnett County, and he graduated from Bruce Street High School, DeKalb County, Lithonia, Georgia, as class valedictorian. A year after graduating from high school, Willie was drafted into the U.S. Army. He served 2 years active duty at Fort Myers, Virginia, where he worked in the U.S. Pentagon. After receiving an honorable discharge, he continued to serve his country working as an Army Georgia Reserve. While on leave in November 1954, he married Bruce Street High School star basketball player and his high school sweetheart, Jeanette Robinson of Lithonia, Georgia. He was the proud father of 5 children, and he eventually became head foreman for Lithonia Lighting, where he retired. After spending a year at home, he never strayed for what he preached and began a career with the Gwinnett County public school system and eventually entered his second retirement. It's well known that he had a deep and abiding love for his family, community, and church until his recent illness. And in 2010, he was deeply moved and very humbled with the naming and opening of Anderson-Livesey Elementary School, which is on 124 that many of you know about. After a week stay in the hospital, he transitioned on February 8th, surrounded by his children, grandchildren, and carried up on the wings of prayer. So join me in celebrating his life and legacy to Gwinnett and DeKalb counties by recognizing his family that stand up in the gallery.
I'd like to present the Doctor of the Day, and to do so, I recognize the Senator from the 18th.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate. We have a very special treat today in our Doctor of the Day. She's returning to us for at least, I think, the third time. A dear friend, Dr. Rana Munna. I hope you'll listen to her story because it's a pretty impressive one. She began medical school at the age of 45 at Mercer University. Did you hear that? At the age of 45. She then, after completing her time at the Mercer University School of Medicine, did her internal medical residency at the Atlanta Medical Center, and then became board certified and began her private practice of medicine in Macon. Dr. Munna specializes in health, wellness, and fitness, encouraging her patients to lose weight if necessary in order to control hypertension and adult onset diabetes with lifestyle instead of medication. Dr. Munna is president of the Bibb County Medical Society, very active in our community. She serves as a delegate to the annual AMA House of Delegates. She also serves on the HCA Medical Center's Board of Trustees. One of her proudest accomplishments is her son, Christian, a United States Marine who returned not too long ago from Camp Leatherneck in Afghanistan. Dr. Munna is married to Joseph Egloff, who's here with her today, another very dear friend. Joseph is an avid hunter, farmer, and farrier, the art of putting shoes on horses, if you're not familiar with that. Together, they manage their farm, Rocking Chair Ranch in Monroe, Georgia, where Joseph provides their grass-fed beef, and it's very, very good, to several Georgia restaurants and individuals through local markets. We're very delighted to have as our Doctor of the Day today, Dr. Rana Munna. Dr. Munna.
Thank you so much to Cecil and to Catherine, I hope is watching this morning, and my staff. for letting me out of the office for the day. I love to do this, and I tell my colleagues in Macon every year, please come. Do not be afraid. I have colleagues who have done nothing but specialty medicine for years, and they're scared to death of you because they think they won't know how to treat an upper respiratory infection. So I'm trying to convince more people to come and do this. I've told them repeatedly, I've never had a better day. I've never been thanked by so many people just for being here, and we don't hear that often at all anymore. So we're grateful for you. We know you're away from your families. We know how long it takes to commute if you do commute. We appreciate you. We watch you. We know who you are. And we'd love to hold hands with you on the issues that are important to us. Now, my little talk today is going to center around something medical for the first time. I want you all to know that even though you think you do, you don't need a Z-Pack. What's sweeping through this legislative house is a viral infection. And if you don't have fever, and if you don't have pustules on your tonsils, and if you don't have a horrible, horrible cough, you probably don't need antibiotics. And if you take those Z-Packs like they're candy, I'm afraid they're not going to work for you next year. So that's my medical message for today. Come see me if I can help you. I have other things that can help you: decongestants, nasal sprays, cough suppressants. Have a great day. I'm here to serve you, and thank you for having me again.
All right, well done. Thank you so much. Good to see you again, too. Absolutely. That's great grass-fed beef. See you again. Yeah. Let's get a picture together. All right. Thanks so much. Good to see you. Okay, y'all have a great day. Senator, are you ready? Have you got a group light? Are we ready for Senator? Okay. All right, come on. Let's see. Is this your group here? Is this peanut butter and jelly day? Secretary will read a resolution.
Senate Resolution 180 by Senator Wilkinson of the 50th, a resolution recognizing February 19, 2013 as Toccoa-Stevens County Day at the state capitol and for other purposes. Whereas the city of Toccoa was established in 1874, and legend says it was named by the Cherokee tribe who called the area Toccoa, which means beautiful, and whereas Stevens County was created in 1905 and named for Alexander Stevens, who served as a United States representative from 1843 to 1859 and governor of Georgia, and whereas the area has been home to the Toccoa Symphony and the Northeast Georgia Community Concerts, providing a community that balances work and play. And whereas incredible leaders call Toccoa-Stevens County home, including Chairman of the Stevens County Commission Stanley London, Mayor of Toccoa David Austin, Chairman of the Development Authority Board David Austin, Chairman of the Chamber of Commerce Board Lee Ellen Fields, Chairman of the Chamber's Government Affairs Committee Brian Atkin, Executive Director of the Development Authority Tim Martin, and President of the Chamber of Commerce Wendy Bailey. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate that the members of this body recognize the great achievements of Toccoa-Stevens County and its citizens, and recognize February 19, 2013 as Toccoa-Stevens County Day at the state capitol. Be it further resolved that the Secretary of the Senate is authorized and directed to transmit an appropriate copy of this resolution to members of the public and the press. Through with the order, Mr. President.
Is there objection to adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. To speak to the resolution and recognize our very special guest, I call upon the distinguished Chair of the Agricultural Committee, the Senator from the 50th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the Senate, it is a real honor for me to get to recognize the people from home today. I think my wife's in the gallery, and we have the leadership from Toccoa-Stevens County here with us today. As I mentioned, Toccoa is an Indian word that means the beautiful, and Currahee, we've got one mountain over there, Currahee, and Currahee is an Indian word that means I stand alone. Today with me here on the podium, we're fortunate to have Andrew Ward, who is the manager of the Currahee Club, which is a residential golf community. Now, some of you that play golf perk up. See, I'm not a golfer, but we have Jim Fazio, who designed the golf course at Currahee. And then Marvin Dunson, who I'm not going to call on to speak because we went through elementary and high school together, but he's the owner of Currahee Vineyards. Stanley London, the chairman of the Stevens County Commissioners, and this time I'm going to call on David Austin, the mayor of Decoa. I'm going to present him with this resolution and give Mayor Austin the opportunity to make a few comments.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Senator. We're very fortunate to have Senator John Wilkinson representing us here in Atlanta, and we appreciate all he does. We love Decoa Stevens County. This is all Currahee Day. And we invite all of you to come visit us in Decoa, Stevens County, and play some of that wonderful rounds of golf and drink some of that good wine and visit our historic military museum. And we again thank you for the time we can be with you today, and thank you, Senator.
Good job. Appreciate that. Thank you. Secretary will read a resolution.
Senate Resolution 205 by Senator Balfour of the 9th, a resolution commending the restaurant industry of Georgia and recognizing February 19, 2013 as State Restaurant Day at the state capitol and for other purposes. Whereas the restaurant industry plays a vital role in Georgia's economic prosperity and the quality of life of all Georgians, and whereas Georgia's restaurant industry is composed of over 16,000 food and drink establishments, generates more than $14 billion annually, and provides over 380,000 jobs statewide. And whereas more than 30 international restaurant industry brands are headquartered in Georgia. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate that the members of this body commend the dedication of the restaurant industry, applaud its service as critical to the economic vitality of the state of Georgia, and recognize February 19, 2013 as State Restaurant Day at the state capitol. Through with the order, Mr. President.
Is there objection to adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. To speak to the resolution and recognize our very, very special guest, I call upon the distinguished senator from the 9th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't know why they have me doing this restaurant resolution, but they do, and we appreciate them being down here and all the good work that they do for the state of Georgia. We have a number of board members from the Georgia Restaurant Association up in the gallery. If they could just stand, and we'll just recognize them. Thank you for them being here. And we want to make sure that each one of you knows and is invited to the Taste of Georgia, which is 5:30 to 7:30 tonight at the Freight Depot, and hope that you can be there, and love to have you join us. Thank you very much.
Good? All right, good. Okay.
Crystal was assisted by Jonathan in the optimization of solar cells using quantum dots and nanofibers, and Alex presented piezoelectric nanogenerators, and the purpose of their experiments was to increase the efficiency and output voltage of solar cells by applying quantum dots, nanofibers, and calcination. Alex's project was completed to produce nanogenerators out of electrospun fibers and conductive substrates. Now, do you all know what that is? Okay. I don't know. So I just would like to say that I would like to recognize these students, their principal, our superintendent, Rockdale School County, which has been AYP for the last 5 years in a row. So right now I'm going to give the speaker to Mr. Autry, our superintendent of schools.
Thank you, Pam. Pam, I do need to correct you. Rockdale County Public Schools has made AYP the last 6 years in a row. Thank you very much. Thank you, Rockdale. On behalf of these outstanding students, their parents, and Rockdale County Public Schools, I would like to thank Representative Pam Dickerson, the Rockdale delegation, and members of the House for recognizing these worthy accomplishments of these students. We appreciate the support of all of our state and federal legislators. Without the support and commitment of the members of this chamber, our public school system could not produce the type of internationally competitive student you see here today. With your support of our public schools, we can and we are producing students who are thriving in an educational and employment world that many of us never imagined 30 years ago. When we were in school, some 30 plus years ago, students didn't have personal computers. We didn't have...
If I could have the Senate's attention for just a moment, it's always a great honor to have our congressman representing us in Washington to come by and visit. And obviously having Congressman Bishop here is always a great treat. Please join me in welcoming our congressman from the 2nd.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. It is always a pleasure and a privilege for me to come back to this chamber where I really got my start. It seems like it was just yesterday when I was sitting right out there where Senator Harbison is there representing the 15th Senatorial District. And of course, my years in the General Assembly were truly enriching, and I look back on them. I learned some very valuable lessons here in the Georgia General Assembly, which I wish I could get inculcated and instilled in my colleagues in Washington, and that is that we have got to have a balanced budget. Fortunately, here in Georgia, we're able to have the highest bond rating of any state in the nation simply because we have to live within our means. And of course, our Constitution requires it, and the General Assembly does it. And I'm proud of that tradition, and I just wish that we could do the same in Washington, although we're doing our best to do it. Shakespeare wrote, "All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. Each has his entrance and his exit. One in his time may play many parts." We all have our entrances and our exits, and our public service, we have terms. And of course, it's incumbent upon us to play our part well while we're on that stage. I share with you the burden, the responsibility, and the joy of being able to serve, because it has been said that service is the rent we pay for the space that we occupy on this earth. And I commend you for your service, and together we jointly serve the people of the state of Georgia. And I pray that together we will do those things that are pleasing in the sight of the Almighty. I think there's a poem that I really like. It's called God's Minute, and it goes like this: I have only just a minute, only 60 seconds in it, forced upon me, can't refuse it, didn't seek it, didn't choose it. I must suffer if I lose it, give account if I abuse it. Just a tiny little minute, but eternity is in it. Each and every one of us, every day in our service, have a minute. to make a difference. And I pray that together we will use that minute to its fullest to improve the quality of life for all of the people that we jointly represent. Thank you. God bless you.
Well done, Congressman. Appreciate that. Good to see you as always. Thanks for all you do. All right, let's get the senator up. Y'all come on. Secretary will read a resolution.
Senate Resolution 40 by Senator Wilkinson of the 50th and others. A resolution commending the Future Farmers of America and recognizing February 19, 2013 as Future Farmers of America Day at the state capitol and for other purposes. Whereas the Future Farmers of America and agricultural education provide a strong foundation for the youth of America and the future of the food, fiber, and natural resource systems. And whereas the Georgia FFA Association ranks as the third largest state FFA association in the nation with 30,256 current members. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate that the members of this body commend the Future Farmers of America for their contribution to the welfare of this state and nation and recognize February 19, 2013 as Future Farmers of America Day at the state capitol. Through with the order, Mr. President.
Is there objection to adoption of the resolution? Chair hears none. The resolution is adopted. Always great to have our distinguished guests with us, and to recognize so, I call upon, again, the chairman of the Ag Committee, Senator from the 50th.
Thank you, Mr. President and members of the Senate. I know a lot of times when people come to the chamber and it's the first time they're in the Senate chamber, they're a little bit nervous. And as we were standing over here, I thought these FFA members might be a little bit nervous, but someone asked me why I didn't wear my FFA jacket today, and they really got a kick out of that. That was, but like Chairman Terry England said this morning, there's something about that blue corduroy that over the years the corduroy shrinks. But we are glad to have the FFA here today. It is FFA Day here at State Capitol. FFA is a national organization for students enrolled in agriculture education. It's 84 years old. First, I'd like to recognize these FFA members that we have in the gallery. Let's welcome them to the Senate this morning.
Please stand. Please stand.
Stand up, please. Stand up, FFA members. Also, I did think about something else. I know when Senator Tolleson was kind enough to pass out the article about Senator Hugh Gillis last week, a lot of memories came flooding back on my mind. I worked with the FFA organization for a long time. Senator Gillis was a big supporter. But what a lot of people don't realize, Senator Gillis and his brother Jim were both state FFA officers, just like these officers standing up here behind me today. And when I read that article, I noticed that one of the comments that Senator Gillis made was, "Never forget the man behind the plow." And he was talking about the working people of our state. So I'd encourage you to look at these jackets today and look at this FFA emblem, the cross-section of the ear of corn, the crop that's grown in all 50 states, and there are over 500,000 FFA members across the nation, and then the plow, which is a prominent part of this emblem, which signifies labor and tillage of the soil, and then the rising sun, which is a token of a new era in agriculture. And the President is stationed behind the rising sun, and at this time, it's my privilege to introduce your state FFA president, the one who laughed the biggest about my FFA jacket and why I didn't have it on. But, you know, a lot of times in here I hear people talk about Statenville, Georgia, and sometimes I wonder how many of you have really been to Statenville, Georgia. Back when we had numbers on our license plates, Statenville was number 159, Eccles County, but our state FFA president is from Eccles County, Ms. Dolly Melton. I'm going to present her with this resolution and call on her to make comments at this time.
On behalf of the Georgia FFA Association and the more than 34,000 Georgia FFA members, we appreciate you allowing us to be here today. This week is our National FFA Week, and our theme is Grow. It is the leaders like yourself who make the legacy of agricultural education possible. Once again, thank you for allowing us to be here today, and we appreciate your leadership.
Thank you all very much. Let's pose for a picture.
If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the passage of House Bill 68. The ayes are 164, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 246. House Bill 246.
House Bill 246, President Golick for the 40th. Bill to be entitled Act Entitled 10 relating to general provisions for the George L. Smith II Georgia World Congress Center Authority, so as provide that the authority shall have the power to provide benefit programs to its officers, employees, and other agents, including retirement plan and group insurance, to amend Title 45 relating to the Employee Benefit Plan Council, so as to extend the option to elect coverage of the program to the authority. Bill having been before the House Committee on Insurance, committee recommends. Bill to pass. Bill is being read today for the third time.
Are there any unanimous consents? Does any senator wish to rise on a point of personal privilege? You have a consent calendar of privilege resolutions that are before you. Question is on the consent calendar of privilege resolutions. Is there objection? Chair hears none, and all the bills on the consent calendar of privilege resolutions are therefore adopted. Now moving on to the general calendar. Are there any motions to withdraw or commit? Moving on to the general calendar. Secretary will read Senate Bill 81.
Senate Bill 81 by Senator Wilkinson of the 50th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 12-6-152 of the OCGA relating to prohibited acts regarding harvesting ginseng so as to shorten the legal season for harvesting ginseng, to provide for an effective date, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Agriculture recommends that this bill do pass. Senator Wilkinson of the 50th, Chairman. Through with the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 50th to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the Senate, Senate Bill 81 would shorten the legal harvesting season for ginseng. At the present time, it can be harvested from August the 15th until December the 31st. This bill would change the harvest date until September the 1st. The ginseng harvesting season is set in law. The reason that we're asking for this change, the Department of Natural Resources asked for this. Ginseng is also regulated by the federal government, the Department of Forestry and Wildlife Services, and they do an annual check of the state regulations to make sure that the state is in compliance with the federal regulations. As a part of the ginseng harvesting, when ginseng is harvested, the root is dried, and then the product of the root is used in things such as energy drinks, cosmetics, and so forth. But a part of that law is that when ginseng is harvested, the berries have to be replanted at that time. And many times the berries are not ripe by August the 15th, and when they're replanted, they do not reproduce because they are not ripe. So what this bill would do is put us in compliance with the federal regulations, and the harvest could not begin until September the 1st when the berries are ripe and the plant could reproduce and sustain itself. Mr. President, if there are no questions, I'll yield the well.
You do have a question. Chair recognizes Senator from 35th. Before the 35th begins, let's keep the chamber down. It's a little bit noisy in here, so keep your conversations to a whisper, please. Chair recognizes Senator from 35th for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will the senator yield?
I will.
Senator, I didn't even know we had a flourishing ginseng business here. How much of a business is it, and what part of Georgia? Because I didn't think our weather allowed us to grow ginseng too well.
You have to have a permit to harvest ginseng, and currently there are 14 ginseng harvesters in the state, and one of the reasons that the Department of Natural Resources came to me is because a lot of the plants are grown in North Georgia and Northeast Georgia.
Will the gentleman further yield?
I will.
Isn't it true that it grows wild here? Is that the kind,
it
is
does.
it that we're planting? Or we do have to plant it, though, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Mhm.
No further questions, Senator.
Thank you.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Is there objection? Agree in the Porter Committee which fail pass the bill. Chair hears none. Porter Committee is agreed to. Shall the main question be now put? Are there any objections? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Shall this bill now pass? Question is on the pass the bill. All those in favor of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary will lock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 48 and the nays are 3. And this bill, AMC records Constitution majority, is therefore passed. Secretary will read Senate Bill 117.
Senate Bill 117 by Senator Jeffries of the 17th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 9 of Title 25 of the OCGA relating to blasting or excavating near utility facilities so as to revise and add definitions to provide for related matters, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Regulated Industries and Utilities recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Senator Murphy of the 27th, Chairman. The Senate Regulated Industries and Utilities Committee offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 117. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 9 of Title 25 of the OCGA relating to blasting or excavating near utility facilities so as to revise and add definitions to provide for responses by facility owners and operators regarding design locate requests, to clarify the effect of design locate requests, to require that the time frame for the requested excavation be defined in a locate request, to provide that white lining shall not obstruct certain signage and marketings, and for other purposes. Through with the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes Senator from 37th. Speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Fellow senators and distinguished guests in the Senate, I bring you this morning Senate Bill 117. It was sponsored by the senator from the 17th, who's out of town on state business, and he asked me to present it, which is I am glad to do so. The contents of Senate Bill 117 is a rewrite of what is commonly known as the Georgia Call Before You Dig bill. This was a collaborative effort between 18 different institutions and entities that have to do with utilities and construction around them in the state of Georgia. Through a series of almost 30 meetings and hearings that were held, the revision changes before you today are the result of those meetings. I think the most amazing thing about this is when you have so many different entities that have competing interests, you have them come together in agreement on a bill of this magnitude. Some of those that were associated with that was the Associated General Contractors, all of the utility companies that took part in this, the locators, Georgia Highway Contractors Association, Georgia Utility Contractors Association, Georgia 811, Georgia DOT, Home Builders Association, Interstate Pipelines, CSX, Norfolk Southern, and Water Authorities, just to mention some of those who had participated in this. This is not a new bill. It is a rewrite of the existing bill. The first bill was written in 1969 as a result of a gas line explosion that cost 7 people their lives in Hapeville, Georgia. And Georgia has been one of the leaders in the Call Before You Dig law. And this is a revision, the first revision we have had since 2005. And I think in reading the bill, it's apparent that as the bill in its operation and as contractors and utilities work through this every day, there were areas that it could be tweaked and made better and more operative. I don't believe there's any major changes to this legislation, but it's more operational changes that make it more efficient and close some of the problem areas that are in the existing bill. Georgia, as I said, is a leader in Call Before You Dig. This is a good piece of legislation, and I urge your passage of it. Mr. President, if there are no questions, I yield the will.
There are no questions, Senator. Thank you. The questions on the adoption of committee substitute. Is there objection? Without objection, committee substitute is adopted. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Is there objection? Granted, report of committee which favor pass the bill. Chair hears none. Report of committee is agreed to. Shall the main question be now put? Are there any objections? Chair hears none. Main question is ordered. Shall this bill now pass? Questions on the pass of the bill. All those in favor of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary will unlock the machine. On the pass of the bill, the yeas are 53 and the nays are 0. And this bill, having received Rex constitutional majority, is therefore passed. That concludes our business of the day. The chair will recognize the distinguished majority leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate stand adjourned until 10 a.m. Wednesday, February 20th.
Read the announcements.
Rules will meet upon adjournment in 450 CAP. The Education and Youth will meet at 2 p.m. in 307 CLOB. Insurance and Labor Subcommittee meeting at 2 p.m. is canceled. Public Safety will meet at 2 p.m. in the MES. Finance will meet at 3 p.m. in 450 CAP. Special Judiciary at 3 p.m. is canceled. Health and Human Services Subcommittee on Professional Issues will meet at 3 p.m. in 310 CLOB. Transportation will meet at 4 p.m. in 450 CAP.
Any other announcements? Yeah. The majority leaders moved. We stand adjourned until 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. All those in favor will say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes clearly have it. We stand adjourned.